Hey guys, I'm Zizzle back again. We got another Showdown Slate. So we're going to go over, just like in the past videos, players I like, the players who are going to be in my player pool, some of my main targets for the captain slot, and just kind of my overall thoughts and strategy on how to attack this slate and how I see the game going. So tonight we actually have a really good game. We got the Vikings and the Rams going up against each other. So usually we get these shitty games on Thursdays, but it's actually a really good game. And if Minnesota didn't shit the bed last week against the Bills, I think people would be talking about this even more. I think people after last week, Minnesota, they're like, kind of what happened there? Are they as good as we thought? I think they still are. I think they're loaded on both sides of the ball. I think that they're going to be, at the end of the year, one of the better teams in the league. So I think this is going to be a really good game. Vegas has the Rams favored by a good amount. They're at home. And the Rams have been the best team in the league through the first few weeks of the season. So you can see why they would do that. They also see the game being, a higher scoring affair, which I agree with as well. So just overall, there are some injuries on both defenses. I think these are two of the better defenses in the league, but the Rams are banged up in the secondary. Minnesota's missing Everson Griffin, their big-time pass rusher. So this may be more offense than we would initially, when looking at these two teams, think is going to happen. So that could be good for a number of targets. So I'm going to go through. We'll start like we usually do with the captain slot and kind of who we like the most there. So obviously Todd Gurley jumps out. You can never go wrong playing him. He gets tons of the ball, both running and catching the ball out of the backfield. He's the main guy in the Rams offense. Sean McVay just has that offense kind of firing on all cylinders, and he's super creative in the way that he gets Gurley the football. He scores touchdowns. He does it all. So he's going to be the highest owned captain. Everyone's going to try to get them in the lineup. And I think I tend to agree there that, if we're a betting man, who is going to be the top scorer? It's going to be Gurley. That's kind of been what throughout the first couple of weeks of the season, he's been scoring as much as anybody. So why would that change here? So I'll have the most of him as a captain slot, but I also really like Kirk Cousins too. And I like Thielen and Diggs as well. I do think that the Rams are going to kind of get out in front a little bit. They're going to win this game, and Minnesota's going to come from behind and make this game closer than maybe some people think. And with the injuries on the outside for the Rams, I think Thielen and Diggs have a chance to have a pretty big day here, actually. Especially the Rams are going to score. They're going to put up points, and Minnesota's going to have to throw the ball to keep up. Dalvin Cook, they say, is going to play tonight, but he's still banged up with the hamstring. You probably are going to get a good dose of Latavius Murray. So Minnesota's going to move the ball through the air. So I think Cousins has a chance to have a big day. So I do like him in the captain slot. And then I like Thielen and Diggs too. I'm going to have a couple lineups of them in the captain spot. And then obviously you could have some Goff too. I think those are kind of going to be my main targets. I'm not on Cooks as much. I think Xavier Rhodes is going to be covering him a lot. And I usually try to stay away from Rhodes. He's one of the better corners in the league. And then Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, I think, if you want to take a flyer and throw them in, you could do that. We saw what Woods could do last week. If we pull up his numbers, he had 11 targets, 10 catches, 100 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's been leading the Rams in targets through the first couple weeks of the season. So I could throw him in and really, I could see him having a similar day. They're throwing him the ball. And with Xavier Rhodes kind of taking away Cooks, I think he becomes the main target. And Cooper Kupp's going to get some of the action as well. I just don't think he has much of the upside as Woods does. He's more of a possession guy. He does score touchdowns, though. Is a main target in the red zone for them. But I think Woods also has that big play ability, so I'd prefer him. So if we go down and just look at some of the other players that we're going to target for filling out the flex spots. Like I said, Dalvin Cook, we're going to avoid him. We don't know about that injury. Murray, I don't really love him either. I think that they're going to kind of split carries, and I just think the Rams are really good up front. I don't think that Minnesota's going to be able to run the ball effectively, so I don't want a lot of him. Kyle Rudolph, I don't mind. Like I said, Cousins is going to throw the football, and he likes throwing to Rudolph. I mean, we have, in week 2, he had 8 targets. Last week, 6. He's got 2 touchdowns on the year, so he's a big red zone target for them. And at the price point of 80, at the flex position, his price is 5,600. Kind of like him, and I could see myself having a good bit of him to kind of fill things out. Rams D and the Vikings D, I'm not going to touch. I think it's going to be more of a high-scoring game, so I don't want really a lot of either of those plays. Kicker, we usually throw one kicker in here. We got Bailey and Ficken. I favor Ficken. They're the team that's favored in the game. I think they're going to win the game. And so I'd like the kicker on the better team. So I favor Ficken, but I don't think going with Bailey is bad either. I think that they're going to both put up similar points in this game. As we move down, Laquan Treadwell, third receiver on the Vikings. He's been getting a decent amount of targets, especially for a third option. He's been dropping the ball. Just don't know that he's very good in general. So can you take a flyer on him for 3,000? Yeah, you could, but we're gonna try to avoid it. And then there's really nobody else. I mean, Higbee's the starting tight end for the Rams, but he's just not involved. They don't really throw to the tight end. So again, you could give it a shot and hope he scores a touchdown. Everett also gets some burn as well for them, all the way down at 1,000. But you need a touchdown. Otherwise, it's just not going to work out. So really don't want to go there either. So that's kind of the pool. I think it's pretty simple. Try to get Gurley. Try to get some of these pass catchers in your lineup, as many of them as you can. And then, maybe throw a kicker in as well. So that's kind of how I'm going to focus on building out a bunch of these lineups. I'll build one that, has the Rams passing attack having a big day, and try to pair Goff with, maybe Kupp and Woods. Or I'll have a lineup where, Cousins and the pass catchers have a big day, and I'd like to have Cousins, and I want to have Thielen and Diggs, and maybe Rudolph in there as well. If I'm going to play either the quarterbacks, I want to make sure that I have at least one, but preferably 2 of the pass catchers as well. And then obviously try to fit as much Gurley in as I can as well. So that's kind of going to be my strategy for the slate. So let's build out a lineup now quickly about where I could see things going, focusing more on cash. So let's start with Gurley. Let's see what we could do. We'll throw Gurley in there. We said we liked Cousins, so we'll put Cousins in. I'm going to just throw the kicker in. I like Ficken, so I'm going to do that. That leaves us 6,800 to play with. So obviously I think Thielen's going to be too expensive. It just doesn't leave us enough money to do anything. Unless we wanted to do both kickers. Then you could even get a Robert Woods, but I don't really want to do both kickers. I want to get more pass catchers in as I can. So let's see. Let's try to maybe do Diggs. If we get Diggs, that leaves us 6,200. And then we could probably come down to Rudolph and then Cooper Kupp. I kind of like that. It gives me, a Ram running back, Ram wide receiver, and then I get Cousins in there, and I get 2 pass catchers in Diggs and Rudolph, and then finish it off with Ficken. So I think that that's a pretty solid lineup. I think you just got to mix and match. Try to get, like I said, just as many of these pass catchers, I think, as you can in your lineup. And just make things work. Make sure things are correlated. Don't have Cousins and then have all of the Ram guys. Because if Cousins is going to have a big day, he's going to have to throw it to Diggs or Thielen or Rudolph, and they're correlated. They go hand in hand. So just make sure that your lineup, from a strategy perspective, works as well. It's not always necessarily about just fitting in all the good players. It's telling the story. Make sure your lineup tells the story, and that's, I think, what this one does. We think the Rams, through Todd Gurley and through the air a little bit, get ahead, and then Cousins has to throw to get them back in the game. And they do throw through the air, and if he finds Diggs and he finds Rudolph for a touchdown, and we get a high-scoring affair kind of back and forth. So if you could leave a like on the video, any comments with questions, like I've always said in the past, I'm always there to answer and help you guys out. Subscribe if you've been enjoying the content, and I'll see you guys next time.